This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
And welcome. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber, your host for the next 30 minutes here on Pet Life Radio and Instagram Live. Here for you, pets. Any questions you have, now's the time to ask. Free advice you can't beat free. So now's the time to ask away, see if I can help you do my best. It's worked most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't, but we do try our best. So anyway, I was saying before the show started, typically I boast about our weather here in Los Angeles. I look outside, it's sunny, it's gorgeous. Today, not so. Today, it's pouring rain, it's windy. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm sure glad I didn't wash my car on Friday. Anyway, they say it's going to pass, but the only good news is that I hear that the snow, Mammoth right now has almost more snow than anybody. It's got a base of over 30 or 40 inches. And I'm jealous. I want to get out there on my snowboard. So yeah, it's really great. So, of course, I'm waiting for some really good questions. Anyone on Pet Life Radio, it's easy to get a hold of me. You can always call 877-385-8882. Once again, 877-385-8882. Or better yet, join us here live. You go on to PetLifeRadio.com, click on shows, Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, and there's going to be a link left for you there. Just click on the link, takes you right into our show. And make sure you have your pet with you because you can join us live on video. I hope you're not shy, and just ask away. And same thing for you guys. I can't have you live. I can have you type away questions, which I'm glad you're doing already. I see a couple. So I'm going to get to these. I like to always start. So 18 years old this month. That's amazing. Christina Escobar Williams pug, 18. That is fantastic. God, oldest I've ever gotten for a dog was 16 and a half, my Labrador. So that's really great. Okay, the fight starts. Degenerative myelopathy. Levi is slightly getting worse. Right now, he's only on Adequan. Anything else you come in? So degenerative myelopathy. It's something that we commonly see in German Shepherds. They seem to be the degenerative DM dog that we see. And basically what happens is it's a demyelination of the main nerves and even the spinal cord and all the nerves that leave the spinal cord. Myelin is a sheath that helps the transmission from the brain through the nerves to whatever the innervating, and it helps speed it up. It's microseconds. But with DM, degenerative myelopathy, the myelin, that's the word myelopathy, the myelin starts to weaken and it sometimes even just disappears. So now the transmission down the nerve takes forever. So these dogs, it's not necessarily a painful condition, but there's no communication between the brain and typically the back legs. And they just get weaker and weaker. They have no control of the back legs. And its problem is you're talking about a German Shepherd. So typically you're talking about a very large breed. And then when you think about getting the canine cart, the wheels, the wheelchair for a dog, I mean, it's easy. When you have that dachshund that blows a disc and they become paralyzed in the hind end, then, you put them in the cart, they do great. And they're happy. It can be done, of course, with a Shepherd, but you have to be strong enough to lift the back end, stick them in the thing, make sure the legs get into the stirrups and the loose. It's not easy. And also these dogs they know what they're used to be able to do. And all of a sudden they can't do it anymore. They get really frustrated. And it's sad to watch. It really is. So anyway, there is no magic. I will tell you that I had a client that had the Shepherd Classic case. And she spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on remedies, on treatments, on this and that and the other. Nothing helped. And if you were to ask her, would you do it again? The answer is resounding, no way. So anyway, it's a problem. And again, the issue is here, it's a nerve impulse problem. It's not the actual joint. So it's not painful. And they just don't have the nerve input into those muscles of the back legs. So there's no telling the legs what to do and the muscles to stay toned. It's a terrible disease. So, as far as recommendation, just help them get up, get a hoist, get a towel. When you walk them, you can get these things that you can, it's almost like a sling. And you put the back legs through it. It's got like a leash handle and you can help them up. And as you're walking, you have one hand on the back. It's certainly a challenge, but that would be my recommendation. Next up. Okay, Katie Poo. a Frenchie Foster, had him about 6 days. Suspect he's been potty pet trained, seems to have lost natural instinct to not poop where he sleeps, eats. Can this be reversed? Well, these behavior things, typically dogs that are in a denning situation, if you have them in like a case, a carrier, all right, it's called crate training, then they usually don't want a soil where they have to eat, drink, sleep, and play. So what you can do is start with a smaller area inside a crate, get a small crate, and literally put their toys in there, put their bed, food and water, let it be his home. Okay, then what you do is you walk him. At first, it's a time commitment. You're going to walk him every half hour. But when he goes outside, takes care of business, first, major praise. I mean, really major praise. And then what you want to do is let him spend some quality time with you outside of the crate. So what you need to start having the association that, I'm cooped up in this crate. It's my den, my home, small home. But every time I take care of business outside, I get to come in and take advantage of the big home and get to be with mom. So hopefully they will start making that association and then want to earn that praise, want to earn that time inside the big house and not into their little teeny crate house. And that hopefully in time will work. But you really want to make a big deal every time they take care of business outside. And when they go inside, you do not ever reprimand them. If you want to be safe, you can put a little wee-wee pad down just to make it easier of cleanup for you. But you don't want to ever bring a negative to a natural, normal, essential behavior. And urination and defecation, those are normal, natural, essential behaviors. So you don't want to stop it, and you don't want to have anything negative associated with it. So to punish them for doing it, that's definitely not going to work. So you want to look at the positive side and work hard. But at the beginning, every half hour, maybe every hour or 45 minutes, whatever, take them outside if they don't do anything. You don't want them to wait until they make a mistake. You want to catch them before the mistake. They don't know of anything negative associated with it because they've never been yelled at for it, hopefully. So then when they go outside, kisses and inside the house and praise and let them play and get a treat. So this is cute, just to know how this can work. I've had a couple of cases over the years where, think about this, what position does a puppy, usually a puppy, assume physical position when they urinate or defecate, right? Typically, it's that little squat. And so people tell me that when they took the dog outside, all it would do right away would assume that squat position. They didn't have to go to the bathroom. They thought that they were being praised for that kind of semi-sit. Like you don't sit all the way. All you do, you're like that, and you got all its praise. So they reacted to that. That's what they thought the praise was coming from, not the fact that they actually urinated or defecated. So it tells you that it can work. So I just thought that was really cute. And I've heard that more than once too. So he's a crate pooper. Yeah. So, oh my God, just walk him Kate, you got to walk him very frequently. Okay. And give a lot of praise when he does it outside. And hopefully he'll want to get that praise. He'll want to get the treat. And otherwise he stays in his crate. Ultimately, he's going to want out of the crate. And he has to learn that his ticket out is to do something outside. And don't get frustrated. I know I can hear the frustration. Don't get frustrated. It does get better. And another Frenchie Foster. Fortunately, my Frenchies, I'm on my third, never were crate poopers. They do well outside. Oh, I know, Debbie, I knew it was you. I don't know how many Levi Shepherds there are, but no, I know it was you. You changed your Instagram name. All right. I'm just waving. I'm waiting for more questions. Here's another one. What's your opinion on raw chicken wings, sides, breast for medium-sized large dogs, or raw food in general? So here's my feeling about raw. On the surface, I will say I'm not a big fan. However, having said that, there are some raw diets, and we used to have one. My Optimum was raw. But I find that and there's some other good companies out there, but what we did and what the good companies do, where I just feel more comfort knowing that these dogs are eating raw, is going through one of two, or preferably what we did, both of these processes. One is called HPP, high pressure pasteurization. They also call it high pressure processing. And it's the pressure that kills the bad bacteria. You have E. coli, Campylobacter, right? Listeria and Salmonella. They're the big four, the dangerous ones. So if we can kill those bacteria, then there's nothing wrong. Now, there's other one is called freeze dry. And if you notice, Stella & Chewy's, Dr. Marty, there's some other brands out there that do freeze dried, and that too will destroy these bacteria. So what we did for our Optimum, which is still a little bit available, is we did both. We did freeze dried and HPP. So the issue is that it's sort of like, look, how many of you eat sushi? Show of hands. I love sushi. Now, will you just eat any raw fish? Will you go into a store, buy a thing of fish and eat raw? No, they call it sushi grade for a reason. And that reason is they've gone through some process where it kills the bacteria, or it's super, super fresh under certain conditions. I never watched them make sushi. I mean, I've seen them make my sushi, but I don't, when the fish is ordered, comes into the restaurants, right, or the stores, I haven't seen where they get it and how they handle it. But typically, sushi grade means that it's meant to be eaten raw. So the equivalent of that in meat for our animals would be sushi grade. And the way to get that is to go through one of those two processes or both. So long answer to your question, Peanut, is that's how I would do it. If you buy food, and there are brands out there that have done this, then it's probably safer. Now, having said that, there are really good probiotics. And I know of many, many people that just feed raw meat and don't have these problems. Maybe it's because the dog's own immune system is strong enough. Maybe because they have the dogs on probiotics as well to take care of that bacteria. I don't know. But I will tell you that there are many out there that just feed raw meat all the time. They buy it at the market and just feed it to them. For that, I think you're spinning the roulette wheel. It's just a chance you're taking. And if it works out, great. Good for you. When he does his business outside, it rains treats every party. Well, it's interesting. Maybe it's something to do with the dog, but at least take advantage of those times. Or maybe he has to go more often. Maybe walk him a little bit more often, and maybe that'll help. All right. Any more questions? Oh, got a lot of waves. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Bethany asks, should my nephew, Bethany's my sister, so that's her dog, get a Bordetella vaccine if he's never boarded in any facility? My answer to that, if it was influenza you're asking, I would say not necessary. But Bordetella, the lay term is kennel cough. And so the concept there is that one needs to have their dog kenneled, of course, in order to get kennel cough. That makes sense. And he never gets kenneled. So why do you need the vaccine? Because I think now with our outdoor lifestyle, I no longer refer to it as kennel cough. I refer to it as go to the dog park cough, go to the promenade cough, go to Beverly Hills cough, go to the groomer cough, go to the veterinarian cough. It's everywhere. You can walk your dogs on the street. You may not take your dog, but the dog he meets on the street goes to daycare every day. So my recommendation for Bordetella is, and by the way, just of all the vaccines we give, the least effective is Bordetella. So much so that if dogs frequent the doggy daycare or boarding facilities or the groomer, etc., they all recommend Bordetella every 6 months, and rightly so. The vaccine, they say, is only good for about 4 months if you're lucky. So if you do it every 6 months, then you're doing it, you're getting 2 a year. That 8 months will be protected. You're taking a risk that maybe the 4 months won't. If you get it 3 times a year, that's a little overkill. But certainly if you're worried, but if it's just like my dogs are, again, I don't take them to those places. My dogs have their own daycare every single day in my backyard. They run, they play, they party, they swim, whatever they want to do. And so therefore, I don't do Bordetella except for once a year. But if you frequented those places, then you'd want to do it twice a year. In fact, as I said, many of these facilities are actually requiring twice a year. Okay, so this is a question about chronic yeast infection. How to blood test it and remove the proteins she's allergic to. Tried to probiotics too. What do you recommend to treat it? So I'm assuming this is a dermatologic yeast. It is usually a Malassezia dermatitis, and they get it in moist areas, sometimes with allergy. Many areas become moist. And first of all, you can do a cytology, skin cytology, to see if you can identify the yeast. You can also do a culture, a skin culture, and see if it grows to what's called a fungal culture. That's what we do with cats, for example, with ringworm. So you can skin an ear. And then if it's really a chronic problem, talk to your veterinarian. But there are some really good oral antifungal agents. There is fluconazole, ketoconazole that you can give orally that can also help kill the yeast in the skin and in the ear. Now, also make sure that in the ear, for the topical medications you use are also antifungal. They usually are. They usually have something in it that will also control the yeast in the ear. So that's what I'd recommend. But talk to your vet. There are some really good oral antifungal agents that when you have these chronic cases, and oh, by the way, yeast is really hard to beat, as you've already seen that. So understand, if you're going to use like one of the oral antifungals, you're going to go at least a month. Using antibiotics, I'll do 10 to 14 days. With yeast, anti-yeast, I'm going to do 30 days to start. And then you might have to do 2 or 3 more months after that. So keep that in mind. Okay, time for our quick break. Don't go away. We'll be back there after these short messages from our sponsors. And then we'll come back and we'll answer more questions.
For those fortunate to have experienced the deep bond and unconditional love of a companion animal, the death that follows can be one of the most difficult and misunderstood losses to go through. Many times, this devastating loss goes unrecognized and trivialized by family and friends, leaving grieving pet parents struggling to find healthy ways to cope with the loss. In And I Love You Still, a thoughtful guide and remembrance journal for healing the loss of a pet, Dr. Julianne Corbin calls attention to the difficulties unique to the loss of a beloved pet and provides an interactive and compassionate guide to help you process your loss and work towards coming to a place of peace and healing. For those interested in journal therapy and looking for a professionally written and compassionate resource to help understand and reconcile the grief associated with the loss of your pet, this book is for you. And I Love You Still, a thoughtful guide and remembrance journal by Julianne Corbin, is now available for purchase on Amazon and other major book retailers.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
And back here live, we had just a question about a dog with Addisonian that was an Addisonian. And I don't know if it was Cushing's first and then overtreated, creating an Addisonian, which sometimes happens, or just an Addison's dog, in which case there is a really effective treatment that is called, it's an injection, typically monthly, anywhere from 28 to 40 plus days, called Percortin or Zycort. But it just says he was diagnosed in 2018 and is now PUPD. I don't know if there was any treatment given, and we should talk about the different ways to monitor that. PUPD usually is a sign of Cushing's disease, which is the opposite of Addison's. That is an adrenal gland that's over-functioning, whereas Addison's is an adrenal gland that's under-functioning. So other forms of PUPD or other reasons for PUPD are going to be kidney disease, could be a bladder infection. It could be, hold on. So also she's on Zycortal and daily pred. So a lot of times we have the mineralocorticoid, that's what we have to fix with Addisonian, and the glucocorticoid that we have to fix. So we always give a little bit of prednisone. And I mean a little bit of prednisone. It could be like 1 milligram. And it could be every 2-3 times a week. It doesn't have to necessarily be every day. So it could be that maybe the dog is just getting too much pred, because that is always a side effect. But as I was mentioning to share with my audience here at Pet Life Radio, is that you want to make sure that it's not one of the other causes of PUPD, such as diabetes mellitus, diabetes insipidus, kidney problems. So I would just have an overall check. Also have a full panel of blood tests done to see, or it just could be maybe that we can drop the cortisone dose a little bit, because what is one of the side effects of too much cortisol? PUPD. That's why Cushing's dogs are PUPD, because their body is secreting too much of its own cortisol. So that might be one of the things going on. Now, back to Shigem. Oral fungicide, dangerous for senior dogs. She's about 14 years old and 13 pounds. The answer is, like with any drug, it all depends on how well they're doing. What organ is usually, when it comes to these oral, or just any drug, they're metabolized by different organs. The liver seems to be the key organ metabolizing drug. So if the liver is functioning well, then you're okay. If the liver is not, it's like with anything, even with non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. What happens if we see the liver is not working well, we may not want to use some of the more common ones, all right? Like meloxicam or carprofen. We might want to go to Galliprant, because Galliprant's a little easier on the liver. So we have to respect the liver. So I wouldn't make a decision of to use or not use just because of age. The same reason why I wouldn't use age as a factor in determining whether or not I'm going to anesthetize the dog for a necessary surgery. It's not the age that bothers me. It's the condition of the animal. It's the liver. It's the kidneys. It's the red cells, the white cells, the pancreas, how everything is functioning. If everything is good, I don't care if the dog is 12, 9, or 14. I'm going to go ahead. So the same thing. I was always, and then on a fungicidal medication like fluconazole, ketoconazole, you need to monitor like every 3 months, a blood test to monitor the liver. So in answer to your question, it could be dangerous for a senior, but it's not the age that makes it dangerous. It's the liver function that may make it dangerous. All right. So while we are waiting for more questions, this is great. Since I started doing this, I love it because I'm always prepared. I have a bunch of things that I go online and check things that I find interesting. I find interesting. Hopefully you will, but we have great questions. So I do love it. Okay. Fleas and cats. Now, we don't usually see a lot of fleas this time of year, but you need to treat cats, even indoor cats. And I know this because it's interesting. One of my 5 cats, where he gets them, probably from one of the dogs, the fleas love him. Now, the fact that he's also my most and really only overweight cat, maybe he's tasty. I don't know. But the fleas attack him like crazy. But they do. Cat fleas, Tinocephalidus felis, also definitely cause a lot of bacteria. So they have like Bartonella, rickettsial diseases, Wolbachia. So these diseases can transmit to us as well. So don't ignore your cats, even your indoor cats. You can bring a flea into the house. It can jump on your shoe or your pant leg when you're walking in the house, finds the cat, says, this is much tastier than that guy walking in the house. So you never know. So keep that in mind. Right now, prevention is key, but hopefully during the winter, in most places of the country, you don't have to worry that much about fleas. But come March, it's something to think about. This is a common sense thing, but you know what? Common sense would be, you expect more people to have it if it was so common. So, and that is that prehabilitation therapy. You've heard about rehab. How about prehab? So prehab is basically, it's keeping your pets as healthy as they can, because you'll notice that when pets are lean and well muscled, well toned, okay, no infections, they're just in really good shape, good diet, etc., then they'll be able to rehab much better. And interestingly, this is why one of the reasons when we have a dog, for example, with a bad knee, cruciate, the cruciate ligament surgery, the one that I like is the TPLO. That's the exact same surgery, whether you do it early because only 30% of the fibers are torn and you're just starting to limp a little bit, or later where 100% of the fibers, exact same procedure. So then why wait? I'll tell you why we want to do it earlier than later. The longer you wait, the more muscle atrophy because of lack of use will happen. Then after the surgery, when rehab is so important, this dog will have a much more difficult time because he's lost so much muscle mass. So that's a perfect example of keeping your dogs well muscled, keeping them lean. Actually, if they are faced with some sort of procedure, some sort of disease, they will beat it faster and more easily. Now, earlier we talked about, Bethany asked about the Bordetella, and I mentioned influenza. We are seeing a rise in influenza across the U.S. It is highly contagious respiratory disease. Again, a lot of boarding facilities, daycare facilities, groomers are requiring it because they know that to get rid of it takes a couple of weeks. And that means they have to shut down for a couple of weeks. And who wants to do that? That's their business. So what we're seeing is a lot more of facilities not recommending, but now requiring it. And it's probably a smart thing to do. And why are we seeing more of it? Probably because during COVID, people weren't going out. Okay, now that COVID has lightened up, more people they're taking advantage of this and they're traveling. So they're leaving their dogs in boarding facilities, or they're going back to work. So they're putting their dogs in daycare, or they're going to the dog park with their dogs. So the potential for these diseases to spread, for what we call contagion, is much greater now than it was, say, a year ago. And that could be one of the reasons why we're seeing so much more of it. And so it is spreading. And this is an interesting fact. It does nothing for your pet care, but it's really cool. Okay, C14 radiocarbon dating revealed a leg fragment that was discovered in 1985 in Spain's Basque region from a domesticated dog that lived approximately 17,000 years ago. Now that, coupled with some other radiocarbon dating of 2 canine fragments of skulls that were found in Russia, basically suggests that dogs lived alongside humans some 3,000 years before we previously thought. So domesticated dogs, they go way back. I have my theory. My friend Marty Becker and I have kind of made up this theory in our minds about, how this happened. Think about this. You got 2 maybe cavemen, whatever, going back thousands of years, sitting around, and they had dogs, working dogs, And they would sit down at the end of the day and have their glass of wine, whatever, they're chilling. And one of the dogs just came over and just started nudging for a reason. Maybe it was an anomaly of this dog. And it wanted to get pet. It was a working dog. They didn't live with them just for work. And the dog nudged up, so they started petting it a little bit. Okay. Well, now it's time to breed these dogs. And so which dog do you think they're going to choose to want to breed? Well, that friendly dog that used to come over and want to get little hugs and pets. So whatever that was in that gene that caused this dog to want to do that, now they're breeding it. And then can you imagine? And then those dogs get bred. And those dogs, before you know it, you got domesticated dogs that love to work and be with us just as much as we love to be with them. Of course, our attitudes towards pets have changed as well. I mean, there are people that have dogs, that's all they're for is working. But, then there are people, then they're nuts like us who want the dog sleeping in bed with us because they're so much fun and you get so much love and affection from them. So, and we really appreciate the bond, the relationship. So anyway, I think that could be what happened. But the good news is it happened a long time ago. So, we're already over time. One quick more story. Well, just remember, it is time to start decorating for the holidays. We must be careful out there. And we'll talk about this a little bit more next week, but I'll just mention some of the things, just, things like the trees, mostly decorations, the ribbons, the tinsel, electrical cords. All of these are potential hazards for our pets. The lights of candles. Cats are very intrigued by a flickering light, so they want to touch them. So the short answer, we'll talk more in depth next week, and we're going to get to the holiday foods to avoid. We'll talk about that next week also, but start thinking about, as you're setting up for the holidays, how can I keep my pet safer? What can I do to avoid the mishaps, to avoid the commonly caused mistakes that we make that are hazardous to our pets? Anyway, if you have any other questions you want to talk about, just send them to me here on Pet Life Radio, Dr. Jeff at PetLifeRadio.com. We'd love to hear from you. And also, all our shows are recorded. You can go on to PetLifeRadio.com, click on Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, and you will see, I don't know, Mark, we have a couple hundred, I guess, shows in the can. So you can just so much things to learn. Hopefully 400. Oh my God. So boy, do I talk a lot. So anyway, and let me just make sure I've said hi to everybody. And for all of you out there, have a great week. Those of you here in LA, stay dry. You can always get a hold of me. Those of you on Instagram, you know how to get a hold of me. And I'm so thrilled. Talk to your friends. Have them follow me on Instagram. I just hit 9,100 followers. I'm shooting for 10,000. So talk to your friends. Say, hey, you know that Dr. Jeff? You want to learn something about your dog? Follow him on Instagram. You'll learn a lot. So plus, you see great stories. By the way, Mason, that dog that you've seen the most unbelievable tumors, right? He was in last week, next week, this week he's coming in for suture removal. He looks amazing. What a transition. What a transformation of this dog to something that was going to be put to sleep because nobody wanted to even pet him, let alone adopt him. And now, hopefully, we'll find a home for him. So anyway, thank you all, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.